Hi, my name is Bob Roseman. I'm a practicing attorney in the District of Maryland for the past 46 years. I've been honored to serve as a member of the Board of Directors of the D.C. Maryland, Virginia chapter of the ALS Association for the past 11 years. Since February of this year, I've been privileged to serve as president of this most extraordinary organization. I am both excited and pleased to be here today to welcome you to our Dine to Defeat ALS, the at-home edition. Clearly, we would have preferred to celebrate with you in person, but this year, COVID-19 made that impossible, and we pivoted to an online platform. We are thrilled to have you join us as we honor Nancy Peery Marriott for her unwavering philanthropic support of our chapter, as well as the patients and families who are affected by ALS. Mrs. Marriott was personally touched by ALS when her father, H. Taylor Peery, died in 1964 from this disease. Nancy, her husband Richard Marriott, and daughters Julie and Karen Marriott, Sandy Bertha, and Mary Alice Hatch are all deeply engaged in the philanthropic community through their work and their various foundations, for which we thank you all very much. 11 and a half years ago, my wife of 34 years was diagnosed with ALS. It was a disease about which we knew little, and in a very brief time, we endeavored to learn as much as we possibly could so that we would better understand Lynette's diagnosis of bulbar onset ALS. One of the most important things we learned about was the existence of the D.C. Maryland, Virginia chapter of the ALS Association. Literally within a few days of diagnosis, Lynette and I were honored to be visited by Robin Swope, the then Director of Patient Services. Robin came to our home equipped with an amplifier device to assist my wife in her communications, as well as many other practical considerations, all geared to making our lives easier. Lynette and I were extraordinarily pleased and impressed with Robin and the ALS Association, which offered to us its full support and commitment without asking or seeking anything from us in return. Robin and the ALS Association were there for us selflessly, in a giving, warm, and respectful way, motivated to assist us in any way possible. I understood from that first moment how important this relationship would be to my wife and me as we progressed through the stages of this disease. From that time to today, my commitment is unwavering to the association, and its goals and objectives have never been clearer or stronger. I want to thank the D.C. Dine to Defeat at-home committee for all of their hard work. They've done a truly fabulous job, as you will soon see. Without their outstanding creative efforts and commitment, this evening would not have been possible. Finally, I must thank each of you for joining us. Hopefully you will learn a few new recipes, bid on some fantastic auction items, and most of all, show your support, and when asked, raise your battle. You have committed yourselves to the fight against ALS and are helping to improve the lives of the more than 800 families we serve annually living in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, who are still suffering and dealing with this devastating disease. Thank you for your help. Thank you for your commitment. Be strong, be persistent, be safe, and be well. And most of all, have a wonderful evening. Thank you all very much.
Good evening, and welcome to the 2020 Dine to Defeat ALS at Home. I'm Lynn Aronson, Executive Director of the ALS Association, DC, Maryland, and Virginia chapter. Who thought that when we started the year, our event would look like this? But thanks to our amazing volunteer dinner committee, I'm excited for you to be joining us from the comfort of your home for the next 90 minutes. This event may be a bit longer than other online events you've attended, but 90 minutes means a lot to us. Every 90 minutes, somebody is diagnosed with ALS, and every 90 minutes, somebody passes away from this terrible disease. Our goal tonight is to make these 90 minutes count so we can continue to support our community and one day find a cure. Tonight, it is our privilege to honor Nancy Peery Marriott. Her own family's experience with ALS and commitment to supporting people living with ALS and their families is an inspiration. As we go through the program, you will hear from patients, families, caregivers, volunteers, and some of our amazing staff. We are united in one cause: to end ALS and help those living with the disease live their lives to the fullest. We will get to enjoy some amazing chefs prepare delicious recipes that I hope you will try making at home. Before the program starts, I want to take a moment to thank all of our sponsors. Their commitment, even during these difficult times, means so much, and we are so very grateful. Throughout the evening, please make sure to go to www.dinetodefeatals.org to bid on the amazing auction items we have and donate through our Raise the Paddle. Oh, and you'll hear more about this soon, but we have an exciting Raise the Paddle challenge match that will double the value of your gift. Thank you again for joining us, and just remember, as we battle ALS, we live with the simple principle: we can't wait. We can't wait for a cure. We can't wait for treatment. We can't wait to provide care. And we can't wait to see how much you enjoy Dine to Defeat ALS at home.
Thank you for joining us for Dine to Defeat ALS at Home. I am your host, Montgomery County Councilmember Craig Rice. Many of you may recognize me from past Dine to Defeat ALS dinners as your auctioneer. Some of you may have seen me play a doctor on TV. No, I'm just kidding. But this year, I have the privilege of being your host. Now, obviously, tonight's event is a lot different from our normal Dine to Defeat ALS events. So let's start with the obvious about what's different. We're not at the Mayflower Hotel, although I've heard that some of your living rooms rival the lobby of the Mayflower Hotel, but really just want to say thank you for letting us join you at your home this evening. The second thing, we're not serving you dinner, but we have some incredible chefs who are going to teach you how to make a fantastic dinner at home. And there's no live auction. Many of you should be happy about that, because I have a great knack of making you pay a lot more for something than you ever thought you would that's probably in your home right now. But don't worry, I'm going to tell you more about how our online auction can be accessed and how you can really get your hands on some great items while still supporting the ALS Association. So what's the same? Well, like I said, we still have an auction, and it still has some amazing items that are there that I expect you to bid a lot of money for. And you can see all of them at dinetodefeatals.org. And while you're there, make sure you also seize the opportunity to raise your paddle, because your donation is going to go to help more than 800 individuals and families who are living with ALS throughout our region. And of course, why are we here? We're all here to defeat ALS, because as our theme for the evening is, we can't wait to create a world without ALS. So this has obviously been a strange and challenging year. 2020 has presented so many obstacles. And on a personal note, it's been almost a year since I lost my good friend, my chief of staff, Steve Goldstein, to ALS. It's been incredibly difficult as I continue to talk to his family, our staff in the office, about how much we miss him. And I know how much this incredible disease has an impact on each of you and your families. And despite the obstacles that COVID-19 has presented, on behalf of our chapter's board of directors, I really want to thank all of the caregivers and staff who have worked diligently to maintain the level of care and services we come to expect for those affected by ALS. Your support will continue to make sure that we can do our work and expand our services to help families like Steve's family, not only through the process, but also help them in their time of grief as well. And of course, we're also excited tonight to honor a great person, Nancy Peery Marriott, for her tireless support of the ALS community. Now, just as a quick aside, I used to work for Marriott Company, and it's very interesting because Mr. Marriott used to have a slogan: take care of the employees will take care of the guests, and the guests will keep returning. Well, it's clear that Ms. Marriott, you certainly have embodied that in terms of taking care of the ALS Association so that it can take care of the families and those afflicted with ALS so that they can live better and more fulfilling lives. So now I think it's time to have our first paddle race. Wait, what's that? We have a special guest joining us? Actually, I'm joking. There's nothing in my ear. But I do understand that we have somebody joining us. Hey, Bill.
This is Bill Thowett. I, along with Ken Wiegand and Alma Wiegand, are very happy to support the challenge event for ALS for the Maryland, D.C., Virginia chapter. This is, as we all know, a very weird year. As you also may know, the ALS Association does most of its fundraising through in-person events like dinners and walks, etc. The COVID crisis has not only disrupted the economy and disrupted a lot of people's jobs, but it's made it more difficult for patients with ALS to actually get services and for the ALS Association to deliver them, and importantly for the ALS Association to actually connect with the donors who have traditionally given. Normally at the Dine to Defeat night, we do what's called a Raise the Paddle event. And the Raise the Paddle event has been very successful in generating cash donations to provide services for patients in the Maryland, D.C., Virginia area at the dinner. We don't really have that kind of venue this year because of COVID. So what we have decided to do, Ken, Alma, and I, is to provide a matching donation, similar to when the person raises the first paddle and inspires other people to give. We have together put forward $35,000 to match the people who are going to give during the dinner, the Dine to Defeat event. And we hope you'll all do this because this is a time, a really critical time for the ALS Association and the PALS, and they really need the money and the support. So thank you very much. We've raised the paddle first. Please follow us.
Wow, Bill, thank you. And thank you, Ken and Alma, for your generosity and leadership. So if you guys can raise your paddle for $10,000, I know it's a lot, but I know somebody out there is ready to do this. I hope that you'll do so right now at dinetodefeatals.org. And I understand that we have Scott and Stephanie.
Hi, Craig. It's Scott Golden and my wife, Stephanie Cohen. Today, we are going to raise the paddle to help the ALS Association for $10,000 in memory of my cousin, Stephen Seiden. And tonight, we're sure we're going to be able to defeat ALS with your help.
Scott and Stephanie, thank you so much. Now, again, don't forget, you can go online to raise your paddle and help us achieve our $35,000 match. And while you're there, make sure you check out some of the incredible auction items that we have. For our sports lovers out there, we have autographed items from Cal Ripken Jr., Steven Strasburg, Braden Holtby, the DC United team, and more. And if you want to talk sports, we have a private Zoom conversation available from Super Bowl champions Doug Williams and Rick Doc Walker, the voice of the Washington football team, Julie Donaldson, and best-selling sports writer and columnist John Feinstein. Wow, some great stuff. So make sure, go online, donate, and bid right now. So I want to take a moment to thank all of the chefs, all of the volunteers, all of the people who are living with ALS and their families who helped to contribute to tonight's program. As you watch, we appreciate your patience and tolerance of some of the challenges we may have when it comes to our audio and video quality for each of our segments. We've really tried to make sure that we put our best efforts forward, and I know ultimately you are going to enjoy the show. So let's go to our first food preparation. We have our cocktail with Twin Valley Distillers.
Hello, this is Harry Wilder from Twin Valley Distillers, and today we are going to be making a Maryland bourbon lemonade. We have fresh lemon, fresh mint, our 1812 bourbon, and our limoncello available here at Twin Valley Distillers. We also have some fresh lemon juice and soda water. This drink is not unsimilar to a mojito. So the first thing that you're going to do is take 3 slices of lemon and a bunch of fresh mint. Put them in a container so that they're easily muddled together. And when you muddle it, you want to focus on getting the pulp parts crushed without crushing too much of the actual rind, because that will give it a more bitter flavor profile. So once you have those nice and muddled up, you can add in 2 ounces of fresh lemon juice. All right, so we have our 3 lemon slices and our fresh mint muddled together with 2 ounces of fresh lemon juice. Next, the fun part, we get to throw in 1.5 ounces of the 1812 bourbon, and then a single ounce of our limoncello. The limoncello provides some of the sweetness so that we don't have to use any simple syrup in the making of this cocktail. What I like to do when I'm icing this, I put it about halfway, then I dump in the contents of the container so that everything that you've muddled gets trapped between the layers of ice. That way you can stick your straw down in there, past all the muddled stuff, to where it can soak up all the drink at the bottom. Top it off with a little soda. And after that, all you have to do is garnish it. And we're ready to go.
Hi, my name is Renee Cavanaugh. This is my family. I want to thank the ALS Association for all they've done for me and their connection to the George Washington Hospital. And I want to thank Audrey for always keeping in touch. Now let my family take over. I need to go on my mask now.
So my name is Stephanie Cavadoy-Achmani. This is my dad, George, and this is my daughter, Brianna, and the one who is filming us right now is my wonderful and supportive husband, Rohit Achmani. And since my mom was diagnosed with ALS about 5 years, she's had ALS for about 5 years now, we have become a big team. And it's very important that each of us have a role in caring for my mom. My dad, George, has been so supportive along this journey, going to George Washington University Hospital with her in all of her appointments, and helping with the transfers, and helping with the feeding tube. So I'm grateful as a family that we're so supportive. Even Brianna helps with her grandmother Renee's feeding tube and the water flushes. We're grateful to the ALS Association because they gave us the path and understanding of what the process was going to be for my mom, because when she was diagnosed, we were lost, but the ALS Association gave us hope, and a hope and understanding of all the processes with Radicava and trial drugs. So we're really grateful for that. So I'll let my dad, George, talk.
Hi, this is Renee Cavanaugh. This is my wife. we're so grateful that we have an institution like the ALS Association, because they work so hard for ALS patients. It takes a village to taking care of ALS patients. They are so wonderful. They're very helpful. They always communicate. They always call us and find out, or emails, you guys okay? Do you need something from the ALS Association? Working on ALS Association and George Washington Hospital, there are such two wonderful institutions. We help a great deal the ALS community, and we're so grateful, and we say thank you to all the family in the ALS Association and also in the George Washington Hospital.
So I just wanted to say that I always see that the ALS Association always is on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, and whenever I see an alert for a news happening or some breakthrough, like we had a big breakthrough 3 weeks ago, I was able to tell my mom, Renee, and dad, George, of the happening. So the ALS Association is so great. They give tools for the families of the happenings, and also the great support group that they have for ALS families. So we just want to thank everyone again at the ALS Association. Please support the ALS Association by donating, and thank you for this time.
All right, welcome back. So Renee, thank you for sharing your story, and thank you to your entire family for everything that they do for you and our entire ALS community. So if you want to help make sure that people like Renee continue to receive the care and support from the ALS Association, please consider raising your paddle at the $5,000 level. And now I understand we have Alethea.
It's Alethea Baggett. I'm raising my paddle for $5,000 for the ALS Association. My relationship with the ALS Association started 16 years ago when my stepfather, George Chapman, was diagnosed. George had a profound impact on my life. Even more profound was watching this man who lived such an active life, a man dedicated to physical activity, who achieved so much of his purpose from creating and building things with his hands, lose his ability to breathe on his own and become completely paralyzed from the neck down. He passed away 4 quick years after diagnosis with no cure in sight. I made a commitment to myself and to George to stay involved and do whatever I could to support finding a cure. The care services the ALS Association is able to provide patients and their families free of charge is invaluable, and I will continue to do what I can to support this cause until we find a cure. I encourage everybody who is able to commit to contributing to this association so we can find a cure. Thank you.
Alethea, thank you for your donation and support, and I really hope that all of you out there will go to dinetodefeatals.org. Again, dinetodefeatals.org to raise your paddle and contribute. So I really want to thank everyone who donated to receive a VIP package from us this year. And I want to express our gratitude to Mark Silver and the folks at AdWords who helped fill the packages that we've sent out. Now, I don't know about you, but I could certainly use a getaway about now. There's nothing happening in politics, no. But we have tons of great travel opportunities in our auction this year. We've got a winter stay at Bear Creek Mountain Resort. We've got an overnight stay and breakfast at the Omni Resort Bedford Springs. We've got pheasant hunting with Castle Valley Outdoors in Utah. We have weekend stays in Annapolis, at the Hilton Norfolk, at the Marriott Ranch Bed and Breakfast. And if you want to fly, we've got 2 round-trip tickets with luggage on Spirit Airlines. That alone is worth a pretty penny. And last but not least, our former dinner chair, Nina Eldred, has donated ownership of her Marriott Vacation Club condo in Orlando that offers prime time stays every single year. All of those auction items and more are available at, again, you've heard it before, dinetodefeatals.org. Now, how about we make some soup with Chef Gerard Panguad?
Welcome to my kitchen, and unfortunately I cannot go anywhere to cook, but I'm going to do a recipe I really love, which I make for myself a lot of the time. It's a vichyssoise of sweet potatoes. A vichyssoise is a leeks and potato soup. And so I had the idea to use sweet potatoes and give some Asian accent with star anise and ginger, and which also break the starchiness of the sweet potatoes and give much more elegance. So I already diced the sweet potatoes, and I'm going to start to roast them a little bit. It's very important. There is some action in cooking, which are always very important. And here we're going to caramelize the sweet potatoes. And it's going to change a little bit the taste, but for the best. I put the star anise, which is a Chinese spice. And if you don't have a cheesecloth, you can put the star anise in the soup, but be sure that you go fishing and you take them out before you put the soup in the blender. I already cut so it's basically a third of an inch, which is basically a centimeter in metric system. Let's put a little bit butter. And I use one of those thick pots, like Le Creuset, or this is not Le Creuset, it's powder, but it's exactly the same thing. Don't be shy with the butter. Put some salt already. I'm going to add the celery, the ginger, the star anise, we're going to bring to the boil, and we're going to simmer for probably at least 20 minutes. So I'm going to add a little bit cream. It's not much at all. It's the cream is in this case a binding agent. It's not really to make things richer. So I bring to the boil here. And then I'm going to turn off for 15 minutes to infuse a little bit more the anise. So after we infuse the soup for, let's say, 15 minutes, you take the onion out, and if you don't use a cheesecloth, you have to take all the star anise one by one. It's not fun. It's better to buy a cheesecloth. Trust me, I did both. So now we're going to put in the blender. And because I have more soup than the blender can contain, I take another big bowl. So I'm going to mix the two different mix, so it tastes the same. you taste your food all the way. So hot. It's a good soup for Thanksgiving. Oh, you can serve it cold.
Hi, my name is Joan Dye, and I've been asked to tell you why I have chosen to be a volunteer with the ALS Association for so long. The reason is, about 40 years ago, I met a young woman who was only 22 who had just been diagnosed with ALS, and I decided to be a volunteer with her. Through her, I met a young man who was 25, and I also started volunteering with him. As he got sicker, he lived alone, and it became impossible for him to live by himself. So my family and myself decided to bring him here to stay with us so we could care for him. During that time, I realized that there were no services that we could use to help us through that. And the amount of information that I needed, I had to navigate through that process myself and find it out. The clinics that did exist, the very few, you could really only find information about the research program that they were working on. There were no multidisciplinary clinics like there are today, which provides wonderful information. So after they passed away, the support group got started in Montgomery County, and I co-facilitated it for a year or so with another person, and then since then, for the last 30 years, I have been the sole facilitator of that support group. With each patient that comes through, I know that I can learn a little from each one and give a little more to each one. That's what I find that the ALS Association does. It makes every patient feel like they are not alone through this process. And I am proud to be a part of being able to make a newly diagnosed ALS patient feel that way. We have so much for them to offer, to access our own closets, our AT lab, the clinics that we help fund, all of that they have access to. So that is what makes me so happy to be part of. And many years ago, a very wise president of our board made the statement, we will know we're doing a good job if at the end of a patient's life we can say, were they better with us or without us? Invariably, I can answer the question, they were better with us. The problem is, during this pandemic, are we going to be able to continue to give the good services we've been giving all along? And I hope that we are able to continue doing that. We can't wait. So please consider going to www.dinetodefeatals.org and contributing today. Thank you so much.
Joan, thank you for sharing your story with the ALS Association. You certainly have been a beacon of hope to families living with ALS, and we are so grateful for your nearly 30 years of involvement. I hope that Joan's story will help to inspire you to raise your paddle at the $2,500 level. You can make sure that we can keep our support groups going and help provide copays for the eye-tracking communication devices that are so essential to give a voice to those who need it. So, Let's raise those paddles for $2,500. Come on, guys, we can do it. Hey, Scott.
Hi, Craig. Thank you. We're the Evans family. My name is Scott Evans.
I'm Jane Evans. I'm Nathan Evans. And I'm Ellie Evans.
And we are raising the paddle to donate $2,500 to the ALS Association in honor of my friend, Andrew John Nelson, who passed away in 2017 after 7 long years battling ALS. This is in his honor, his wife, Alex's honor, and their son, Will's honor. We miss him every day, and hopefully we can eradicate this horrible disease.
Thank you for your donation tonight and sponsorship of Dine to Defeat ALS at Home. And I also want to thank all of our other sponsors.
The Marriott Daughters Foundation, Tower Companies, Clark Construction, Host Hotels and Resorts, the Annette M. and Theodore N. Lerner Family Foundation, Marriott International, Merrill Lynch Sharma Group, Spectrum Printing and Graphics, UBS, BDO Wealth Advisors, Booz Allen Hamilton, Davis Construction, the Hit Eldridge Family, Folger Pratt, NFP, Pillsbury Law, Potomac Valley Brick, Civnet Technologies, Whiting Turner, the Bond Family, Jane and Scott Evans, iGaze, Carolyn and William Ingersoll, Kaiser Permanente, the Lamond Finn Family, Alliance Specialty Group, Mobility Works, the NFT Meltzer Group, and Robert Roseman Legal Group. Thank you for your continued support.
Now, I don't know about you, but I'm getting kind of hungry seeing all this delicious food get made. Now, you can go online to dinetodefeatals.org. Again, that's dinetodefeatals.org. I'm going to say it all night. You guys are going to be sleeping and dreaming about this to bid on some great auction items like 2 different packages from Rose's Luxury and Restaurant Group. One is for dinner at Rose's Luxury. The other is for 3 nights of dinner for 2 delivered to you from Rose's at Home. A $200 gift card from Need Hospitality and Design, which includes succotash among other restaurants in the area. We've got brunch for 4 at the Four Seasons Hotel in Georgetown. Gourmet dinner packages from Chef Kimberly Hutton delivered straight to you. Plus, we've got other restaurant gift cards, many beer and wine and spirits packages for all of those of you who really want to add something extra to your dining experience. And one more look at some of the auction items for now. 2020 has been a year for golfing, and we have tons of packages available, including an outing for 4 at both the Greenbrier Resort and Westfields Golf Club. We've got a stay and play with the Dormy Network, as well as a membership for Dormy Network courses that includes the initiation fee. So make sure you go to dinetodefeatals.org and make sure you bid now, donate. Now, let's make a salad with Aaron Silverman from Rose's Luxury.
Hi, my name is Aaron Silverman. I'm the chef and founder of Rose's Luxury and Pineapple and Pearls. And tonight we're going to make our signature lychee and pork sausage salad for you. It's our #1 seller of all time. So I'm going to make it for you guys now so you can see what goes into it. Cool. All right, so same bowl. It's been the same bowl for 6 years. You can use whatever you want. This works for us. So first ingredients to go in the bowl. You start with your herbs. So you got 3 different herbs here. You've got mint. Regular mint works. Honestly, any kind of mint works, but spearmint, chocolate mint does tend to be a little strong, but just rip it up, throw it in. Really simple. The next one is cilantro. And you can keep the stems on. The stems are great. They add crunch. Honestly, we like them better than the actual leaves themselves. So just a handful of that. I don't know, 5 pieces. Sorry, I know a handful doesn't really explain it. So, and then Thai basil. And this is really important that you use Thai basil, not Italian basil. This is a very different flavor. So 5 or 6 pieces of that. Start there. Next up, this is Togarashi, which is a kind of a spice blend. It's a Japanese spice blend. And just a little bit, so a little bit goes in, a little bit goes a long way. I find the easiest way to control how much you put in is just to like fill the spoon, and then instead of trying to dump it in, you just kind of tap it a couple times, and you have a lot of control over how much goes in. So just a very, very little bit, like a half a teaspoon probably. Let's see, next up is peanuts. So these you definitely want, you can use skinned or unskinned, doesn't matter, but definitely toasted, as it makes them taste a lot better. These are Virginia peanuts, they're amazing. They're some of the best peanuts out there. I know this sounds funny, but it's 20 peanuts, that's the exact number. We've measured this down to the exact number of every ingredient in here. And believe it or not, that's actually pretty important. So the next one is garlic chips. And this is about 18 garlic chips. Some are bigger than others. So we're very particular about it to make sure this tastes right every time. So you can kind of eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but some are bigger, some are smaller. After 7 years, I've kind of got a pretty good eye for it. So those go in the bottom. Next up, this is really important that we use, actually, we're going to put this one first. This is our sauce here. It's a habanero and coconut reduction. So basically we take coconut milk and we just let it reduce on the stove, probably by about half. And at the height of the season, we pickle habaneros, and we save them all year long. So when we make this sauce, we just drop a couple of the habaneros into the coconut milk and let it reduce down together. And it becomes almost like icing texture, like that thickness. That's what you're looking for. Not so thick that it's pasty, but not soupy either. So we just put some of that in the bottom as well. You either do one big dot, a couple of little dots, but at the end you're looking for about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half. Just put that in there. Next up, lychees. So switch from peaches to lychees. The most important part about this is that they are ice cold. So one of the things that makes this dish awesome is not just, there's a lot of texture contrast, but there's also a lot of temperature contrast. And that really makes it exciting. If you ever have like a hot fudge brownie with like ice cream on top, the temperatures are really exciting when you have like contrast. So assuming they're all perfectly sized, you go 7 halves of lychees. Some are smaller and you can use extra. But so we'll put those in. But it's really important to put those to one side of this dish because we're going to put a hot ingredient on the other side, and we want the two to stay separate so that you have hot and cold and they don't just both become room temp. Next, this is our hot component. It's country ham sausage. As hot as possible, you want to make this. And we do about 2 tablespoons, but make sure we do it on the opposite side of the ice cold dishes. And if a little bit of the pork fat gets in there, that's not a bad thing. All right, 3 more things here. So sliced raw red onion. This one is important to shave thin. You shave them on a mandolin, but you can do it with a knife. It's just really important that they're thin because I don't think too many people like to eat big bites of raw onion. You just kind of want this to melt away when we eat. So just a little handful of this. Where you put it doesn't really matter. This one can go wherever you want. All right, next up, lime juice. So it's really important to use fresh lime juice. Definitely cut your limes right before you're ready to go. Just like one wedge. You don't need to use the whole thing, but just a little squeeze. This helps cut through all the sugar in the lychees and all the fat in the pork sausage. This is an interesting one. It's coconut powder. So it's dehydrated coconut powder. And to be honest, it's not super flavorful because it doesn't have any salt or sugar in it. But what it does is it helps, there's lime juice in here, there's fat. It can get a little soupy and liquidy, so this helps bind it so it becomes, it eats better, everything coats better. So we just give it like, 2 teaspoons. Same thing here, tapping the spoon makes it really easy. Obviously you can do whatever you want. And then lastly, so this is, if you haven't seen one before, it's a whipped cream canister. So normally you would put liquid cream in here as a little charger, and then it turns it into whipped cream, just like you would buy at the store or at the grocery store. In this, instead of cream though, we did coconut milk. So we just take plain old coconut milk out of a can, pour it into here, give it one of these charges, and obviously not everyone has this at home, so you could always do this with just with coconut milk by taking a can of coconut milk and whipping it with a whisk until it gets thicker. Anyways, we have the fancy tool, so we're going to use it. And all we do is turn it upside down. This is how it comes out. And we give it a little squeeze. And it makes this nice little whipped cream version of coconut milk. And then that's it. You just got to eat it right away while it's hot. So the trick, there's one more step, not in building it, but in eating it. And the most important thing here is it's very pretty right now because you've got all these different compartments that are all very separated and beautiful. But the trick is you have to stir the hell out of this. And you can only use a spoon. At the restaurant, we don't even set forks on the table for guests when they use this. You need to use a spoon and you need to mix the hell out of it. The messier it gets, the better it tastes. So that is our pork and lychee salad.
Hello, I'm Jay Kenny. I live in Rockville, Maryland, where my wife Nancy and I have lived and worked and raised our children over these past 25 years as residents of Montgomery County. My wife Nancy is a social work mental health therapist at the Montgomery County Crisis Center. And for 30 years, I had the wonderful privilege of serving the residents of Montgomery County. 25 of those years as Chief of Aging and Disability Services in the Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services. It was a great privilege to serve under 4 county executives and many county council members. In August of 2018, I left county employment for an encore career to be the Chief Operating Officer for the Jewish Social Service Agency, JESA. I was honored to be selected for the position, and I was so eager to contribute in any way I could to the inspiring mission of this nonprofit organization with very deep roots in the Washington, D.C. area. However, within my first few months there, I started experiencing various symptoms that were suspicious. For me, an initial symptom was some choking and a hoarseness and raspiness in my voice, which you can hear now. In addition, there were some involuntary muscle twitching and spasms and things of that nature. Like all of us, I ignored those at first. Being a somewhat athletic person, I have been an instructor for an adult boot camp fitness program for the last 20 years, waking at 5:30 to conduct those workouts. So I was accustomed to aches and pains and various overuse injuries and dehydration and so forth. But it quickly became clear that there was more going on. So over the course of about 9 months, seeing various specialists to rule out this or that medical condition, in June of 2019, my wife and I went to Georgetown Medical Center and I received the diagnosis of ALS. We, of course, were devastated. Being both in the health and social service arena, we were familiar somewhat with ALS and the gravity of such a diagnosis. We knew of the local ALS chapter because I had a very small supportive role when the chapter was established here in Montgomery County. We were so thrilled to have it so accessible to our residents. So we called and were immediately greeted with a empathetic, compassionate response. We were connected to our care manager, Audrey, who immediately connected us to resources and information and benefits of which we were not aware. We got connected to the Speech and Language Resource Center, and initially Danielle, and now Reagan are tremendous resources educating us about the technology available. Since I will in all likelihood lose my voice, I've been doing message banking and voice recording so that when I do depend on augmented technology to communicate, hopefully much of the voice will be my own voice versus a purely robotic voice. And last but not least, we have joined the support groups, the open support group for persons with ALS and caregivers and anyone who wants to come to those meetings, friends. In addition to that, my wife Nancy participates in the monthly caregiver support group, and Joan, our wonderful facilitator, heads both of those groups, and we have made a whole wonderful new network of friends who are so generous and caring, sharing their journey, their resources, their tips and coping mechanisms, and we feel extremely supported. None of this would be possible without our local chapter and the wonderful staff and the services they provide. Every day there's a new symptom, there's a new loss of function, there's a reminder that this is very real. So I ask you, and I tell you, we can't wait. Please donate. Thank you very much.
So Jay, thank you for sharing your story with us. Some of you know I've known Jay for many years and am proud to consider him a friend. And I know the great things that this organization has done to support Jay. I had the rough time of dealing with losing a chief of staff. I had the rough time of dealing with my best friend's mother, and now I've got another friend who I've worked with who also has been afflicted with this terrible disease. So I really hope that you'll join us in raising your paddle now at the $1,000 level by going to dinetodefeatals.org. We really need your support. Every single dollar can make a tremendous difference and help to make these individuals' lives a bit better. The reality is we're struggling with so much right now. And so having a helping hand, having a person who's there to support, having someone to talk to, having someone to ensure that the types of technology that they have that can help them live enriched lives is there, is all contingent upon your support. I think we've got Paul with us. Hey, Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul Enghold, and I'm a board member for the D.C., Maryland, Virginia chapter of the ALS Association. I am raising my paddle to contribute $1,000 to keep our great care services team working for all of the people across our region who are afflicted with this terrible disease. I hope this pledge inspires you to give.
Well, thank you, Paul. And please, help us make and beat our $35,000 challenge match. And while you're raising the paddle, make sure you check out those great auction items we have for your home, including a portrait session with Hartkorn Studios and Icona Photography. We've got artist Felix Amaransinghe, who lost his mother to ALS, and he'll turn your photography into a beautiful pastel portrait. For your home office, we've got an amazing chair from Human Scale. You can decorate your home with a package from Kim Parker or custom furniture from Annapolis Maritime Antiques. All of this and more is all available, you know it, dinetodefeatals.org. So now, let's get on to our main course with Chef Kwon Benowitz.
Hi, this is Chef Kwon Benowitz, and tonight we're going to prepare steak frites with grilled asparagus. And we're going to start with cutting our fries. And we have a few cut already, but I'm going to show you how to hand cut fries properly. And first you want to take a slice, or just make one slice on the potato just to stabilize it on your board. And just be careful, make sure you're tucking your fingers, and just slice. You kind of want your slices to be about maybe a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch, but no larger than a 1/2 inch or in thickness. And you just nice slice, make a few slices when you get started. And while you're cutting your fries, you want to make sure you're setting them in water, because the water will remove a lot of the starch, which makes them more crispy when you fry them. And you should have your oil set nice and hot. I have my oil setting here, and it's been heating for a little while. So we're going to get a nice sizzle. And just be really careful when you put your fries into your pan that you drain them first, so that you're not getting a lot of splash, because it could be really dangerous. Let's talk about the steak for a minute. So with the steak, we're going to use hanger steak today, and you can use either hanger steak or ribeye or New York strip, but today we're going to use hanger because I think it's a nice meaty cut, and it just looks really beautiful on the plate. And what you want to do is take your steak out a little bit early so that it comes up to room temperature. And when you're ready to cook it, you want to give it some kosher salt and black pepper. Keep it very simple. And your pan should be hot. You want to get a nice sear with olive oil. And with steak frites, you can kind of do these things pretty about the same time, because fries take about 15 minutes. So you're going to start the fries by blanching them in the oil. On my pan for the steak. This is kind of the thickness that you want. This is about just between a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. Go ahead and gently place your fries in. Just be careful. Make sure that they're not too wet. Start there. I'm going to lower my temperature a little bit. You kind of just want them, they're sort of boiling in the oil right now, which is nice. That's kind of what you want them to do, to start to get soft. They blanch a little bit, so then when you fry it, you'll get the crispiness you want. So now with the steak, we're going to go ahead and sprinkle it with some salt. Both sides, or all sides, because there's 4 sides, and pepper. And season generously. You want that nice flavor and crust to penetrate the steak. Some oil to our pan. So it looks nice and hot. We're going to go ahead and add, and that's what you want to hear, that nice sizzle. And don't crowd your pan. These are going to cook pretty fast. Few minutes on each side. Maybe a tongue or a spoon. Just move them around a little to make sure they're not sticking to each other. And what I look for is when they start to float a little bit, you can kind of get a sense that they're starting to get cooked on the inside and soft enough. And right now we're going to stuff our steak. Flip it over. And the reason we want the steak to cook a little bit ahead of the fries is because we have to wait for the steak to rest. And if you want sort of a medium or medium rare temperature, just a few minutes on each side. Make sure you get that nice sear. This looks good. And then we're checking our fries. And they're starting to float a little, so it tells me that they're going to be ready soon. With your fries, you want to make sure that you have a pan with paper towels to remove your fries. That's a nice color. You want to make sure that you sear both sides, or all sides. So if you have to flip it onto the side, get some color, and do that. So just going to let the steak sear a little bit longer, and then we'll take it off. rest for about 5 minutes. Take a little bit of red wine, just deglaze the pan with a spoon. So that'll reduce probably by half. And we'll just take a look at our fries. And now I'm going to increase the temperature because the fries are softer. And so now it's time to increase the temperature of the oil so that we can start to brown the fries. You can also add some shallots, rosemary. I do have some rosemary here. I'm going to add that. I also add some garlic. That's what you're interested in. I'm just going to add the rosemary. And that nice golden brown color is what you're looking for. And you have to remember, once your fries have been removed from the oil, you want to salt them right away. You want to salt them while they're hot. We're going to go ahead and slice our steak. These beautiful pieces. And remember, when you slice steak, you want to slice against the grain. Nice, medium rare. Fries. Those are beautiful. This is the color that you're looking for. And you want to brown your fries. Generous salt. While they're hot, give them a little shake just to make sure. You can go ahead and start plating. So we'll start with our steak, and you kind of want to beautiful. Grab your fries. And I like a nice amount of fries. I think they should be well represented on the plate. Like so. Got a lot of fries here, so let's show them off, right? Line reduction on the plate. Here you have your steak frites. Dinner set. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Joe Cudahy, and this is my daughter, Mary Rita.
Hi, I'm Mary Rita Cudahy.
Here's a picture of us with my wife and Mary Rita's mother, Marge, in the spring of 2014. We were working with various doctors at this point to try to get a diagnosis for her medical issues.
Within 3 months of this picture, my mom was walking with a cane, experiencing extreme difficulty swallowing, had bouts of choking, signs of confusion, as well as trouble breathing.
In July of 2014, she and I walked into Fair Oaks Hospital. Her CO2 levels were 3 times higher than normal. At this point, our lives changed forever. Within 10 days, she underwent a tracheostomy and was permanently placed on a ventilator and feeding tube.
My mom remained hospitalized for the next 90 days. During this time, she was officially diagnosed with ALS. In just 5 months, she had physically deteriorated significantly.
Finally, Marge was able to return home. She remained bedridden in a hospital bed, attached to a ventilator and feeding tube 24 hours a day. Health insurance covered only basic medical needs. Even with help from the ALS Care Services coordinators and the loan closet, our expenses for her care, including an LPN, 16 hours a day, was $276,000 a year.
On November 5th, 2015, she passed away. We walked out of Fair Oaks Hospital alone, 15 months after we first walked in.
We were overwhelmed by the effects this disease had on our family. We decided the best way to honor Marge's legacy was to support those families who face the same issues that we did. No family should have to go through this alone.
We've been active with the association in many ways, chairing committees, walking in the DC Walk to Defeat ALS, and being a voice for those without one at Advocacy Day on Capitol Hill.
But our biggest role has been to work directly with the most caring, loving, and dedicated people we've ever met. Together, we facilitate the North of Virginia Family Caregiver Support Group. Over the years we've been involved, we've assisted almost 90 families with navigating the difficulties of life when a loved one has ALS. Our meetings offer an opportunity for family caregivers to discuss their concerns and issues with other people who get it.
As you can see, there are many ways that you can help these vulnerable families. Tonight, you have a chance to help the ALS staff and volunteers like us do just that.
So the next time Craig asks you to raise the paddle, please hold it up high and take this opportunity to help.
Hello, and Mary Rita. Thank you for your involvement as volunteers, leading a walk team, and everything you do for our chapter. This past Saturday was our first virtual walk to defeat ALS, and we have one more coming up this Saturday, October 24th. If you want to get involved, if you want to donate, help support, you can find out more information at walktodefeatals.org. Again, that's walktodefeatals.org. So come on now, guys. We've only got a couple levels left. Let's raise our paddles for $500 now. I know we can make our challenge match if we all give. And I really want to thank you for your support, for everyone else out there who's going online right now, going to, what is it? DineToDefeatALS.org to donate and bid on auction items. So now, it is my pleasure to introduce the ALS Achievement Award, which is given to leaders in our community who support the work of the ALS Association in fulfilling our mission. To discover treatments and a cure for ALS, and to serve, advocate for, and empower people affected by ALS to live their lives to their fullest. And while I can talk to you about our honoree Nancy Peery Marriott, I think it's much more meaningful if you hear from the people who know her best.
My name is Julie Marriott. I'm the oldest daughter of Nancy Peery Marriott, who's being honored tonight at Dine to Defeat ALS.
I am Sandy Bertha, the second oldest daughter of Nancy Marriott.
My name's Karen Marriott. I am Nancy P. Marriott's third daughter.
My name is Mary Alice Hatch. I am the youngest daughter of Nancy Peery Marriott.
My sisters and I have been asked to introduce our mother, who embodies the ALS Association values of compassion, integrity, and urgency.
My mother, Nancy Marriott, is a go-getter. She has so much love and so much passion for her family and for the Lord and for her music.
I am grateful for the example she is. She has tons of energy. She is a planner. She is fun. She is very committed, deeply loyal to family and to friends and to causes that she's passionate about, and to her music.
My mother is dedicated to whatever cause she chooses to focus her energy on, and she has a lot of energy. She has a special place in her heart for those who are struggling, and will use her time and resources to help those who can't help themselves. She's very generous with her personal time and her financial resources.
My mother, Nancy, lost her father, Taylor Peery, in 1964, just a few months before I was born.
I remember growing up hearing a lot about her father, Horace Taylor Peery, which he was fondly called as H. Taylor Peery. And what a great example of a business leader, a compassionate father, a community member, a wonderful neighbor. One of his really good friends, Elder Haight, David B. Haight, was a close friend and a next-door neighbor of my mom's growing up, and he's shared so many wonderful stories while he was alive about my grandfather.
He is quoted as saying, "Constructive activity creates real happiness and a zest for life." Taylor was someone who gathered people together. He often had many of the Stanford students over for Sunday dinners and activities,
and he really watched out for others in his community.
Her dad particularly was so vivacious, had so much energy as well, and a great love for life, and she was very close to her father. And her father passed away of ALS when she was pregnant with her first child, and it was very hard on her, of course, and she always would say, I wish you had met my father, I wish you had met my father. And
her father was dedicated to his church and to his values, and my mother has followed his example in that. She has devoted her life to following the good example that was set for her by her father, whom she dearly loved.
My mom had a deep, close friendship with him. As the only girl in her family, I think he doted on her. He loved her. He loved her singing and supported her talents. I think she had a lot of high energy like he did. And I think they developed a very close relationship because I feel like I've known him, although I never had the opportunity to meet him. I think this opportunity to honor my mom is a wonderful way for her to in turn show respect for her father, who she so deeply loved. I've heard my grandmother speak about my grandfather's passing too, and how challenging and unfortunate and difficult this disease can be for loved ones that are left behind, and obviously for those that are suffering from it. And I'm grateful for this organization and others that are doing great work to find ways for a cure, find ways to help and support families that are enduring ALS.
Welcome, everyone, to our 9th annual ALS Gala. It's not where we thought we would have it, at the Mayflower, but it's something that we're going to continue forth with because the need is always there for ALS support. Months ago, I received a letter asking me if I would accept being the honoree for this evening's fundraiser. I do not always accept something like this, but I believe in the ALS support system and what it represents. My father, H. Taylor Peery, died in 1964 of just this horrific disease. When something like this hits home and one sees a loved one suffer from the effects of ALS, you just never forget it. As of yet, there is no cure, but great strides have been made to find what they can do to end this dreaded disease. It's not inherited. It is a virus. It is something that we all hope and pray will have a cure for very soon. And therefore, we all have this evening to support it, for the hopes and dreams to help those who have the disease and to help their families and to make us all aware to what can be done to move the process along. You are showing your support right now by tuning in and being a part of this special evening. I'm going to tell some personal things now because you can get factoids from other people, or you can get it on a brochure. Well, my father, H. Taylor Peery, was a dynamic man. He was a people person. He was a friend to all. And I never want this to die out. I want people to know what a great man he is, was and is. Well, I didn't know what ALS was. You know, there's so many diseases out there that we don't know all about unless we have a loved one that has some problem with it or a good friend that has it. And so when I found out and I thought there's no cure to it, I thought, oh, of all people, here's this decent, lovely man who's given 100% of his life to helping others and living a good Christ-like life. Why does it happen to him? But then I thought, well, there's a lesson to be learned here. When my father had the disease from the years 1962 to 1964, they did not have the research that they have today. I saw my father decline from a vivacious, productive man to one who could not speak or walk, and where the disease step by step took over all of his motor skills. At first, it was his speech. It started to slur. Now, a personal experience was that we danced every night. I was the youngest and the only girl. So every night my father and I would dance before dinner. And it was a very exciting time for us to have our special time together. But one night, his legs would not move at all. It was a moment we looked into each other's eyes and knew this was another ending of a beautiful, beautiful tradition that we'd had all our lives. When Dad could no longer speak, he then went to writing his thoughts on paper for us to communicate. That is until he could no longer write. And later, when he was hospitalized for his last months on earth, I traveled to see him. I was pregnant with our eldest daughter, Julie, and he was very aware that I was pregnant with his first grandchild. And even though it was difficult for him to work the muscles on his face to smile, he did, for he knew his family tree would continue. Dad never lost the sparkle in his eye, and his mind was as keen as ever to the very end. And he was very aware of what was going on, and what he could do and what he could not do. But just before I left the Stanford Hospital, where he was in the last few months of his life, I asked him some personal questions that I wanted to know before he passed on. And they were yes or no questions. This is the way we worked it out. 1 blink was yes, and 2 blinks was no. It worked. It was a sweet but difficult time, not only for me, but for my mother and for my 2 brothers. At this time, I had been married for about 2 years, and now lived back east, so I needed to leave after a reasonable amount of time. I needed to say goodbye to my father for the last time on this earth, for he was about to die within a month. So as I turned to leave the hospital, I smiled the best I could, and so did he, and said, "I love you, and I will see you in heaven." I think this is the most difficult thing that I've ever had to do. My mother was a stalwart through it all. She took him to every kind of imaginable test that she could possibly have. She was the one that really carried the heaviest burden, because I was pregnant with Julie at the time, and I was away at college, and my brothers, I know they felt it deeply too, because they were in a business that were all together. Now, I share these personal stories with you to let you know that I know what many of you are going through, who have ALS, and who have loved ones who do have it as well. It affects the whole family. And you either become bitter or you don't. You learn from it. You become the light, or you draw for the light. I am personally grateful for the knowledge that I have of having a loving, kind, and generous Heavenly Father who knows all our trials and is there to support us in these trials. We then can share our love and our support to many who are now going through the same experiences, but in their own way. And when we've gone through ALS, either with our own family member, we can also be of better support to families and have empathy to the individuals that are around him. Let us pledge this evening to give not only of our time and our talent and treasure, but all that we can towards helping this goal for this evening. Because it's bigger than you, and it's bigger than I am. And it's something that can help those for generations to come. Thank you all for coming this evening, for working so hard to support this, and for all those who have made it possible for this to take place, even though we've had challenges with the COVID. I hope and pray that you will be able to not have this affect your family in any way, but if it does, that you will be given the hope and the starlight that you need in order to get through. Because if you're not the light, who is going to be? Be the examples so other people can draw upon you, that you can draw upon your treasures and your time and your talent to be able to support ALS, not only this year, but many years to come, till we find a cure for this. Thank you.
Nancy, congratulations. And again, thank you for your dedication to the ALS community. You are not only a role model for Karen, Sandon, Mary Alice, Julie, your grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, but for all of us. I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart personally for all that you have done for this great organization. Now, you too can make a difference in the fight against ALS. So please, raise your paddle now at the $250. I'm going to start with you two. You too can make a difference in the fight against ALS. So please, raise your paddle now at the $250 level. You can honor Nancy right now by making a donation. We really need your support, guys, so come on, let's make it happen. Please go to dinetodefeatals.org and make your donation, and you can also see some of the great packages that will make great presents for this holiday season. We've got a Nintendo Switch, we've got a couple girls' bicycles, We've got a beautiful piece of jewelry from Adler Jewelry. Please don't tell my wife about that. And, well, fortunately, it is time for dessert, folks. We've got Zoe's Chocolates in Frederick.
All right, everyone. My name is Pedros. I'm from Zoe's Chocolate. Today we're going to be making a simple chocolate ganache. First thing we want to do is boil our cream. And what a ganache consists of is typically just chocolate and fresh cream. We're going to add a little bit of butter for consistency. As the cream's coming to a boil, you can do different things like add vanilla beans, cinnamon sticks. You can add some herbs like mint or basil, which is really nice, very refreshing. So what we want to do is bring the cream to a simmer, and then what we're going to do is take our chocolate chips, and we're going to add a little bit of cream inside, let it melt out. And when we do that, we're going to let it just melt a little bit, and then we'll add the rest of the cream. We're going to add about half of the cream. And what we're going to do is just give it a little stir, just so the chocolate starts melting. And if you want to use an oil of some sort, like peppermint or cinnamon, you can do that here as well. You would just add it into the chocolate and cream mixture. You can also substitute almond milk or oat milk or any other dairy-free milk if there are any food allergies to dairy. So after we add the rest of the chocolate, what we're going to do, we're going to take our emulsion blender and we're going to give it a little bit of a stir. And we're slowly going to let it emulsify. And what this is going to do is going to give a nice silky texture to our ganache. And you can also do this by hand too with just a spatula. The benefit of an emulsion blender is that it does make it a little bit creamier, just silkier. Gives it almost a velvet texture. So as you can see, this is coming to a full emulsion right now. Gives it a nice creamy texture, very silky, smooth, as you can see. And at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to add the butter, which we have taken out to room temperature. We want this to be soft in order for it to emulsify correctly. If it's too cold, it could shock the chocolate, which is something that we don't want. So we'll add our butter and just break it up into little pieces. You can mix it by hand. It will take a little bit longer by hand. You can also use the emulsion blender at this point, and it does make it a little bit creamier as well. So what we're going to do from this point is we're just going to let this set for at least 4 hours. If you put it in the fridge, it'll solidify quicker, but just room temperature will be fine. You can cover it with a little bit of saran wrap just so that it doesn't pick up any odors from anything else that's being cooked in the kitchen. So then what we have is our chocolate ganache that has been completely solidified, and at this point it makes it a little bit easier to work. You can also put this on top of ice cream. If you want to make it a little bit runnier, you can just add a little bit more cream. So feel free to double the cream for a sauce or something like this. So what we do now is we melt a little bit of just plain dark chocolate in our microwave. It's probably the easiest way to do it. Just melt it at 30 seconds at a time in increments of 30 seconds. And what that's going to do, it's going to bring it to the correct temperature in order to roll it. We wanted it at about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So as you can see, it's very silky smooth. It's got a nice shine to it. And what we're going to do is take a little bit of our ganache and roll it into a ball and actually dip it into the coating chocolate. So you can just take out as much ganache as you'd like. And you can roll it into a little ball. And this is the fun part where you can get your hands dirty. And what you're going to do is you're going to just toss it in your toppings. So right now we're just using some toasted coconut. We also have some crystallized mint as well. And you can make little chocolate bonbons. With any type of coating. And decoration. The possibilities are endless. If you want, you can also add a fresh puree of banana to it. If you want like a banana flavor, you can also change the chocolate. Feel free to change the chocolate as well. You can use a milk chocolate, you can use a dark chocolate, you can use a white chocolate. So really the possibilities are quite endless. And as you can see, they're pretty easy to form. And the cooler they are, the more they'll form too. If you have hot hands, feel free to throw it in the refrigerator for a little bit. And that'll help with the formation of our chocolate truffle. So that's basically how you make a chocolate truffle. Enjoy.
Well, we are now reaching the end of Dine to Defeat ALS at Home. We have some raffle prizes for those of you who've received VIP packages. Kim Fite and Donna Fluley, you have each won a new pair of Apple AirPods. Congratulations! That's awesome. And it looks like now we've met the $35,000 goal. This is great, but listen, we've got to keep up the generosity. And if you also want to win a pair of AirPods, we have one more and are going to raffle it off by drawing a name from anyone who donates $100 or more from 8:30 tonight until 8:30 p.m. tomorrow. So go to dinetodefeatals.org to donate and bid on our auction items. The auction's going to wrap up on October 25th, so you still have time to bid. Again, just remember what I would have made you bid if you were at the Mayflower Hotel. You're getting a great deal and supporting a great organization. So listen, let me close by saying this. All of us have known people we've lost to ALS. All of us know people we love who are challenged with ALS right now. And unfortunately, we know that we are very likely to see more people who are challenged with this horrible disease if we don't do our part. We have to make sure that we fight for a cure. ALS doesn't quit, and neither do we. We have to do our part, and I don't think my words should end tonight's program. I think I'll let Antonio, who's living with ALS, give us the last words about why we need to continue to fight.
Good evening, everyone. I am Antonio Smith, and I hope that you all are enjoying the Dine to Defeat ALS. I was diagnosed with ALS over 10 years ago. I must say that dealing with this diagnosis is very challenging, but it is bring it out the best of who I am, regardless of the diagnosis. I refuse to let this disease define who I am. Contrary to what the prognosis of this disease, I am daily beating the odds because of my strong faith and belief. I am assured that I will overcome this devastating disease. I will say that the ALS Association has really been beneficial to me on arguing, talking, and Jonathan. They are superstars. They have really looked out for me and their kindness is so overwhelming. And I really appreciate them. So I will like to say to the family and the caregivers, also those that might be dealing with this diagnosis, I want to say to you, don't stop fighting. Don't give up no matter how you may feel, because help is on the way.